Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optics Podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in film, Devin. And today, we're going to be giving our spoiler-free thoughts and insights on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audible, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at FilmOptics. That is optics with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptics@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Devin, we just got out of the theater and saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. How are you feeling?
Well, you just got out of the theater. I've been out for a few hours now, and I gotta say, buddy, that high is not going away anytime soon. You might have trouble falling asleep tonight.
I know. I just want to hop on. I want to rewatch the first Spider-Verse movie or play or watch something Spider-Man related because it's here. This is the year of Spider-Man again. And I've said time and time again, Sony does a really good job of making it seem like they throw up smoke and mirrors and making it seem like they own everything Spider-Man. But we are going through another Spider year with Across the Spider-Verse, of course. And we're getting Spider-Man 2 later this year hitting on PlayStation 5, which Devin still needs to buy. Well, actually, he doesn't need to buy. He just needs to wait a few years and eventually...
Yeah, hopefully not too long.
Eventually it'll come to PC. So, I'm not sure if you're excited for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, but I had a great time.
I actually am going to get that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
It was a great game. I platinumed it on PlayStation 5. I might go pick it up again on PC later on, but I think I'm going to wait for it to go down a little bit in price, but it was a great game. But as I mentioned before, this is, again, the year of the Spider, the year of the Spider-Man. Like I said, this is spoiler-free, so you do not have to worry about us ruining anything because we did not want to ruin it for any of our listeners out there. We did not want it ruined for us. That is why I kind of steer clear of a lot of people's initial reactions because people tend to slip up from time to time. There was a few people's reactions that I did watch or listen to because I trusted them and I knew they weren't going to spoil anything. But with all that said, the way that this episode is going to break down, as we mentioned, we're going to get into our spoiler-free thoughts. Then we're just going to hit our final thoughts or ratings, and then we're going to get the heck on out of here. So without further delay, we'll be right back after this introduction to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
My name is Miles Morales. I'm Brooklyn's one and only Spider-Man, and things are going great.
Oh, yeah. You were supposed to be here at 5.
All right, whatever.
Whatever?
Wow.
Whatever?
So are you like a cow or a Dalmatian?
I am the Spot. That's not funny.
Don't do that.
Miles's grades are pretty good. A in AP Physics.
That's my little man.
And a B in Spanish.
What?
Ooh, okay.
Miles.
Are you trying
Mira,
to
eso
kill
es
me,
imposible.
I gotta go. All right, bye.
He's lying to you. And I think you know it.
What's up, danger?
Miles! Want to get out of here?
Oh, Gwen? So wait a minute. There's an elite crew with all the best spider people in it?
Who's the new guy?
This is unbelievable.
This is the lobby.
Miguel O'Hara.
The whole thing was his idea.
What's a guy gotta do to join this spider team?
You can never be part of this.
Don't even get me started on Doctor Strange and the little nerd back on Earth 1999-99.
Come on, go easy on the kid. He had a terrible teacher.
Peter.
Miles!
Mayday!
You have a baby?
I have a baby.
I'll take it from here. Miles, being Spider-Man is a sacrifice. You have a choice between saving one person and saving every world.
Send me home.
I can't do that.
I can do both. Spider-Man always.
Not always.
What about Uncle Ben?
If not for Uncle Ben, most of us wouldn't be here.
Can't stop me now!
And we are back with our Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse spoiler-free review. And the synopsis is as follows. Miles Morales returns for the next chapter of the Oscar-winning Spider-Verse saga, an epic adventure that will transport Brooklyn's full-time friendly neighborhood Spider-Man across the multiverse to join forces with Gwen Stacy and a new team of spider people to face off with a villain more powerful than anything they have ever encountered. This movie is directed by Joaquim dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson. Writers include our boys Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and David Callaham. And stars Shameik Moore, Hailee Steinfeld, Issa Rae, Oscar Isaac, and I believe Andy Samberg is in the mix as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, there's so many great, talented people working here with a few surprises, but we're not going to talk about that because this is a spoiler-free review, so you guys will have to wait until you see the movie. But I'm going to pass it over to Devin so he can give his initial spoiler-free thoughts on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, before we even get started, I barely made it to this movie, actually. It was kind of a miracle. I had my spidey senses tingling and found a nail in one of my tires. So I had to stop by a gas station and pump some air in there to even get to the movie. Like I pulled out of my garage and the tire pressure sensor said 2.
Wow, 2.
That's how flat the tire was. I somehow made it to the gas station. I was not going to miss this movie, and I'm so glad I made that, and I made the 20-minute trip to the theater because this is just one of those movie experiences that just comes around not too often, and when it does, it just feels so special because it's one of those movies, and I feel like when we talk about this movie and even the first one, we need to start like redefining the way that we're talking about these movies because you can say this is one of the best animated movies of all time, but I think it transcends that. You can say it's one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time. I think it transcends that. You can say it's one of the best comic book movies of all time, but I think it even transcends that. We need to just start discussing it as it's one of the best movies of all time. Like it's getting to that level of just storytelling, animation, visuals, all of it. It's getting to the level where we need to start respecting it as just... Doesn't have to have a caveat where we say it's one of these categories, but just one of the best overall movies of all time. That's the level we're getting with this series, and I'm so excited that there's going to be a third one. We already knew going in this is part 1 of 2, and for it being part 1, it has such a satisfying ending that keeps you wanting more, but it definitely gives you enough to live off of and be hyped for however long it takes for the next one to come out. It's just so fun all around. It's just, there's so many laughs. There's so many jaw-dropping moments. There's so many emotional moments. You get all of it in the theater. My theater was packed, which is great. The best way to experience it because everyone was laughing along and everyone was just so into it. I think there was like a minute after the movie ended where just an ovation, just clapping for about a minute straight, most of the crowd. That's just how this movie goes and how it feels. And I'm just so glad that we have this. And it's finally here. We've been waiting so long since the first one because the first one really shocked everyone. Had no expectations for the most part. Just kind of random animated Spider-Man movie that came out, but it blew everyone away. And this one, I think it tops it for me at least. Like it just kind of improves on everything. Like there really is. It really doesn't feel like it's possible, but they did it. They pulled it off.
I could not agree more, especially when it comes to when we're talking about the first movie, which is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it was in that time where Sony wasn't, we had Tom Holland as Spider-Man for like live action, but that was within association with Marvel Studios. And when it comes to Sony's Spider-Man, outside of, I would say, like the first 2 Spider-Man, from Tobey Maguire is really, Sony doesn't really have like the best track record after it came from Spider-Man 3. And then we had the Andrew Garfield movies. Again, not his fault. It's just the way, with a lot of studio interference that happened with those movies, a lot of, studio interference with, the story and whatnot. But then we had Into the Spider-Verse, and that's where we kind of start when we were talking about Across the Spider-Verse, because we did not expect Into the Spider-Verse to win an Oscar for Best Animated Feature. We did not expect it to perform that well. We didn't even expect to love that movie because prior to me seeing Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse was my favorite Spider-Man movie, like out of like anything. And then number 2 was No Way Home and so on and so forth. But I agree with you, Devin. I can wholeheartedly say, I know we've only seen it once. I'm definitely going to go see it again. But this movie improves on the first in so many ways. That's not dissing the first movie. It's not diminishing, what the first movie was, because without that first movie, we do not get Across the Spider-Verse, and we will not have gotten the third movie that will be coming out. We don't know when, but like it all leads back to that original, and the original movie was so good that it was so well received that when I was sitting there watching Across the Spider-Verse, it just blew me away. I didn't know what to expect. I did not want to read anyone's, like I said before, I didn't want to read anyone's reviews or reactions aside from a few people who I trust who weren't going to spoil it for me. And I came out a bigger Spider-Man fan than what I already was, because this movie explains what it means to be Spider-Man. And, we could joke about what was it when Spider-Man PS4 came out, like every single review was like, this video game makes you feel like Spider-Man. Well, guess what? Across the Spider-Verse makes you feel like Spider-Man and more. It is like, you could talk about like all of the like surprise appearances that in this movie, because there's a lot of Spider-Men or a lot of Spider people in this movie, but that is not what makes this movie special. And I feel like a lot of people were having the same thought process with No Way Home. People were saying, oh, well, you just love Spider-Man No Way Home because there's all of these, different Spider-Men. No. Because what I loved about No Way Home and what I love about Across the Spider-Verse is not the fact that there are multiple Spider-Men. That's just icing on the cake. It is at its heart, Across the Spider-Verse is not only a Spider-Man movie, it is a Miles Morales movie. It is a Miles Morales story that is focused around him and his family and his journey. And this movie does not take away from that whatsoever.
But it also does a good job of being a Gwen Stacy story, which they did a good job of balancing the two main characters.
They really did. And and I was kind of getting this feeling, it feels like, obviously they are starting to develop feelings for each other. They're 14, 15 years old, and that's just what teenagers do. Miles looks, he's grown a lot within this past year, because it's been about a year between the first movie and the second movie. But this movie, like we said, it is a Spider-Man movie. It is a movie about betrayal as well, and just everything that comes with that. And friendships start to teeter, or start to lose trust within each other. But it is a heartbreaking movie. And I would say, there are a lot of twists and turns that happen, but I feel like this is their Empire Strikes Back movie, because since we know this is going to be a trilogy, like we mentioned, they did announce 2 Spider-Man movies. The first one is Across the Spider-Verse. I'm not going to reveal the title of this second one, because I do consider that a little bit of a spoiler. I just want people to kind of go and see it as is. But I do agree, Devin. Gwen was, voiced by Hailee Steinfeld, and she never misses.
She's got the Midas touch.
She really does. Like every single project that I would say that either Oscar Isaac or Hailee Steinfeld are a part of, like, or Brian Tyree Henry, of course. Like they never miss. But it's like anytime that Hailee Steinfeld is in a movie, or Oscar Isaac, or pretty much anyone here, you're gonna have a great time. And I love how we got to see Gwen develop as a character. We also got to see Peter Parker develop as a character. If you've seen the promo, he has a little spider bebe.
Peter B. Parker, that is.
Yeah, Peter B. Parker. That's right. I do apologize. Yeah, but there is a lot of twists and turns in this movie, and the cliffhanger was just perfect. Like I would have stopped the movie. I was like, all right, this is all I need to know. But at the same time, I kind of wanted them to keep going because I wanted to know the rest of the story. But I was like, okay, we're going to get an intermission here for a few years. But I'm assuming they did record or shoot everything together between part 1 and part 2. So it may be like a year or two out. But enough of my rambling. Devin, was there anything else you wanted to mention in our spoiler-free section?
There's just so many scenes where you're just watching it unfold on the screen, and for me, there's just a giant smile on my face, like, because you just can't believe that this is happening. Like, you can't believe something this good for a character that's so beloved and so popular. It's just they're just nailing it on such a level that it's hard to believe, and you just soak it all in.
Yeah. And even Amy Pascal, I believe, or someone over at Sony had mentioned that they are in talks and working on a Spider Woman and a Miles Morales live action film, because that would be awesome. It's what people have been asking for years since the first, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
And then they teased it in No Way Home, too.
Yeah, exactly. That will forever be one of the best jokes in any Spider-Man like movie ever. He's like, oh man, you're a kid from Brooklyn. You don't have enough. He's like, I thought you were black. He was like,
there's gotta be one of those somewhere.
Yeah. He was like, I'm so sorry. And then, he goes on to sing. He's like, there's gotta be a black Spider-Man out there. But of course he is Afro-Latino. So, we got to give it out to all of the, Latinos out there as well, because this character would not have existed without, two minority groups, coming together and working on this. And it was very beautiful. Oscar Isaac played a great Miguel. So I was like, it was awesome.
Yeah, he was teased at the end credit scene of the first one.
Oh, that's right. He was. Oh my gosh. It's been like did you watch Into the Spider-Verse before seeing Across the Spider-Verse?
I did not watch it, but I did watch Eric Voss did like a breakdown of the movie and all the Easter eggs.
Oh, yeah. He is a fast talker. He's a very fast talker.
Yeah, he's good at his job.
He really is. I was like, I cannot keep up. But that's right. Miguel was appeared at the end of the post-credit for the first Spider-Verse movie. I totally forgot about that. And I watched the first Spider-Verse movie beforehand. I watched it about a week ago, but I just didn't stick around for the credits there. But they have a vision of what they want to do, and I really hope after we get the third one, I really hope that's it. Like I don't want them to keep continuing. You know what I mean? Because it feels like today in Hollywood, they don't know how to give like a trilogy or just a franchise like a proper ending. I feel like for Miles' story, I feel like 3 movies altogether are great. But what I really liked about Across the Spider-Verse is that it focuses more on Miles. Like obviously the first one does focus on Miles, but I feel like it takes away from him just a little bit. But Across the Spider-Verse, what we're talking about tonight, definitely focuses on Miles 100%. And it is a great Miles Morales story.
My mouth was just, my jaw was just dropped the entire ending. Like, oh my God, this is insane. Obviously we can't talk about much, but
yeah, it
really just, it opens your mind to so many possibilities and keeps you wanting more, but also it's just satisfying enough because it's a really well set up first part. Like, it's not obviously not a definitive ending, but it's definitely an ending to this part.
It's a better cliffhanger than we got with Fast X. I will say that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you know, like it is what it is. But obviously there are a lot of people out there who probably don't know that this is part 1 of part 2. But again, we don't consider that spoilers because during the original announcement of Across the Spider-Verse, they did announce that there was going to be 2 parts. So, you know, you can kind of find that online. That is like official news that has been released by the studio. Not saying everything released by the studio is considered non-spoiler. You know, there are some lines that some studios have crossed, but, you know, we're not going to get into that tonight. But let's get into our final thoughts and ratings here. Devin, what are your final thoughts and ratings on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
Yeah, like I said before, I think this movie transcends into just overall movie greatness. Like, it doesn't have to have a specific category for it to be considered one of the greatest. And I just think it just takes everything to another level, takes the entire first movie and improves upon what was already an amazing movie and just takes everything to the max. And it's just so amazing. As far as review goes or rating goes, I mean, I don't really think there's much I can complain about. Obviously, we're both still on the high from just watching it, but I'd have to go with like a 99. Honestly, I don't know what else to say, where else to give it.
I'm right there with you. Screw it. I'm giving it a perfect 100. I'm going there. I'm going there tonight because Miles Morales deserves it. Spider-Man deserves it. And honestly, Sony Pictures Animation deserves this. Phil and Lord and everyone who works on this project because, you know, this didn't feel rushed. This movie was supposed to release last year. I think it was around like October or September, if I can remember correctly. But they pushed it back. Could have been a COVID thing or whatnot. But no, this is something that didn't feel rushed. Like it's not like we got like the next sequel, you know, within like the next year or two. Like this took time. Like the first one came out in 2018. So it's been a few years, and not saying that it'll take longer for the next one, because I believe they did record everything, you know, in one go, kind of the Avengers style, or what they did with the Matrix, like back in the day for 2 and 3, where there was like the year of the Matrix type thing. But no, I would give this a perfect score. This is by far the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. And, you know, like we said, it could just be the high of us talking, but I'm definitely going to go see it again. But I didn't have any qualms with it at all. So what the median between 199, I guess it would just be 99.
Yeah, 99.5, I guess.
Yeah, we could say 99.5. So a 99.5 is our official rating for the Film Optics podcast between me and Devin's score. So yeah, it was just beautiful, man. And I know it's cliche, but it makes you feel like Spider-Man. It does, like I said. It makes you feel like Spider-Man and more. So that is a wrap on today's episode. If you like what you heard on today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice. And make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Film Optics. Again, that's optics with an X. And as always, make sure to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Make sure to share an episode of the Film Optics podcast with a movie lover in need. And now let's take a sneak peek at what's coming up next on the show. So we have our Transformers Rise of the Beasts review, as well as our The Flash review, and Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. And we might do a spoiler-free... I'm sorry. We might do a spoiler cast, or like a spoiler episode for Across the Spider-Verse, because there is a lot to talk about, but that is more of a TBA, kind of up in the air. It just depends on what is going on, and, you know, if we can get a few of our friends of the show together to give a proper spoiler review for Across the Spider-Verse. But in the meantime, you can listen to our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review, as well as our The Little Mermaid review, and our Star Wars Visions Season 2 review. And again, thank you all for listening. If you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. and Spotify, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay in the know. I'm Christian, and that was Devin signing off, and we'll see you all across the Spider-Verse.
Peace.